Look, I know the Philadelphia Eagles passing offense and their defense was pretty inconsistent week one. There is no reason to panic, and I'll tell you why coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, Eagles fans, to this Tuesday edition of the show. We are brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I'm your host, Louie DiBiase. A few more shows to go before the Super Bowl 59 rematch at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Eagles, Chiefs, this Sunday, the national 4 o'clock game for the NFL on Fox. We'll have a recap of that game following the matchup live right here on YouTube, on our podcast platforms in audio form as well. We have 3 episodes to preview that as well this week. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles on all platforms. I'll dive into that matchup for the first time tomorrow. We have crossover Thursday with the guys at Locked On Chiefs and a Friday show for you as well. But we are still kind of in between moving on to Chiefs week, but also still looking back at that first win of the season in 2025, week 1, a 24-20 victory over the Dallas Cowboys. And while it was a one-score game and the Eagles didn't play a perfect brand of football, and there were some things that didn't go well. The passing game I thought was pretty inconsistent, as it was throughout the majority of 2024. I thought the defense in the first half was really bad without Jalen Carter. They allowed 4 straight scoring drives by Dallas to start the football game. Dak Prescott, the numbers didn't look great, but kind of like Jalen Hurts, the numbers lie. I thought Dak Prescott had a really good performance, despite the inconsistencies of the passing game, despite the inconsistencies of the defense week 1, and that kind of being a rusty start to the season. I don't think there is any reason to panic about either side of the ball. I don't think there is any reason to be concerned that the offense, the passing game, is going back to who it was at times in 2024, rather than the great unit we saw of the NFC Championship in Super Bowl 59. I don't think the defense is suddenly going to regress to who they were in 2023. I really don't think there is any reason to panic, and I've got a bunch of reasons why. Let's start with the passing game on offense. Hold on, before I even dive deep into the passing game and the defense, why you shouldn't panic for those individual spots is because it's week 1. And if you look at the history of the Philadelphia Eagles, especially in the Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni era, if you look across the NFL this week, the games on Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, week 1 is always weird. Week 1, everybody is rusty, especially in the modern day NFL. No starters really play anymore in the preseason. No starters really get a lot of real live reps in practice where there's shoulder pads and everybody's hitting all the time. Like, it's not the early 2000s, the 1990s, where you're going away for camp and it's basically you're playing full games every single day in the 90-degree heat. Like, that's just not reality anymore, and that leads to a pretty rusty product week 1, whether it's the defense or the offense. There were a lot of shootouts this week. Jets, Steelers, Ravens, Bills. There were a lot of defensive matchups as well. The Eagles, Cowboys was a tale of 2 halves. Both offenses scored every drive in the first half, and then nobody scored in the second half. Like, that's just reality for week 1. I mean, just look at 2022, a close matchup against Detroit. 2023, a close matchup against New England. 2024, a close matchup against Green Bay, teams that you were all better than on paper. And while you got the wins, those games were all pretty rusty for the Birds, and things ended up okay throughout the majority of those seasons. 2021 was the last time the Eagles just came out firing out of the gate against Atlanta. And that season, they were a wild card team, but they weren't the team they are now. So take everything with a grain of salt, just because simply it is week 1. But there's other reasons too that I'm not panicking and I'm still keeping a positive perspective at 1-0. For the passing game, number 1, the reasons that it was inconsistent, especially in the second half, had nothing to do with your quarterback. Jalen Hurts, despite only 153 passing yards, no passing touchdowns, but no picks either, I thought he was sensational. I said on the show yesterday, I thought every decision he made was the right one And people are putting out the charts today, all the grades and the rankings. He was first in the league this week in completion percentage. He was number 1 in the league in completion percentage over expectation. He was PFF's second overall graded quarterback heading into Monday, the highest graded running quarterback, 2 rushing touchdowns off script when they were not designed run plays. Jalen was clutch. I mean, that third down conversion to end the game where he put the linebacker in a phone booth down to the ground. I mean, there was a shootout early in the game. They lost their best defensive player. One of your players is out for the year already on the first snap. There's a lightning delay, and Jalen was incredible. So it would be different if the quarterback was a big reason for the inconsistencies, but I thought Hurts had nothing to do with it Thursday. I thought Jalen was the best player for your football team in the first game of the year. I thought he elevated you. He was the main reason you won because of your franchise quarterback. So that naturally makes me pretty confident in the passing game, because who runs the passing game? It's that elite quarterback. So that's a big reason that I'm not alarmed. It wasn't the early struggles of 2024 where Jalen was a big part of the ups and downs. I didn't think Hurts made a bad decision all day against Dallas. And another reason I'm not panicking, A.J. Brown was so obviously hurt. Going back and looking at the all-22, like there was just no explosiveness off the line of scrimmage. He created very little to no separation. You know, they can say that that's just how the game goes sometimes. And while they were being a little conservative in the second half, and I do think eventually they need to force feed A.J. Brown a little bit more, especially in the quick passing game, just to get him involved. I don't think that was the reason he didn't get involved until the end of the fourth quarter. I think A.J. Brown was hurt. I've been watching this player for 4 years now, and you know a player. You know when they're hurt and when they're healthy. That guy is not healthy. We knew heading into the season that he was dealing with a hamstring injury that kept him out of practice. He was up and down in the injury report before the Dallas game. I think your best player in the passing game that makes it go wasn't 100%. Once he's 100%, the passing game's going to be a lot better. I also think, too, Dallas just did a really, really good job in coverage, taking away A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And I think most defenses are not going to be able to do that good of a job week in and week out. The other thing I'm optimistic about with the passing game, there was a situation where your 2 alphas got taken out of the game, and you had to go to your 4th and 5th options in the offense. Saquon, to me, is number 3 here, at least in the passing game. Dallas Goedert and Jahan Dotson, as the 4th and 5th role players of your offense, were elite. They were elite 4th and 5th options. Like the fact that they were still able to produce to a certain degree in this game in a shootout in the first half without Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown being a part of the game plan because they were kind of taken out of it, and they were still able to churn out that 50-yard bomb to Dotson. Dallas Goedert was still able to convert multiple first downs over the middle of the field. That just shows the depth of this passing game, and it tells me that, yeah, they didn't completely blow the doors off of Dallas's defense throwing the football, but they were still able to move the ball without your 2 best players in this area being effective. And Goddard and Dotson looked really, really good. So when Smith and Brown eventually, and it's inevitable, they will become a bigger part of the game, the fact that you still have Goddard and Dotson looking the way they did week 1, hopefully for the rest of the season as well, I mean, that's exciting. I think it was a really good sign to see Dotson and Goddard look good, because you know Brown and Smith are going to get theirs. To have Goddard and Dotson look like maybe they're in for career years, that was actually a plus for me coming away from that football game. And then on defense, yeah, look, the run defense in the first half was not great. Adoree Jackson, I'm definitely concerned about him as the starting corner. Vic Fangio today in his press conference said, and maybe he's lying, but I don't know, Vic Fangio's pretty truthful. He said, as of right now, yes, Adoree Jackson is going to start against Kansas City. That makes me very nervous. I think Pat Mahomes is going to pick on him. So there are some things about the defense that I'm worried about. Specifically, it's Adoree Jackson. But at the same time, Jalen Carter was not suspended today. He was fined $57,000. They basically said he served his 1-game suspension by getting kicked out of that Dallas game before he even played a snap. Jalen Carter is coming back to this football team against Kansas City, so that makes me not worried. They allowed no points in the second half. And the pass rush was, without Jalen Carter, without, I think, the best defensive tackle in football, they still got to the quarterback. Josh Uche had the best pass rushing grade and win rate of anybody in football this week. Jordan Davis looked like Dexter Lawrence out there. Jalix Hunt had a very underrated performance. The linebackers looked elite. Zach Bond and Jahad Campbell made the plays of the game in the second half. Quinyon Mitchell is not going to have that kind of bad performance week in and week out. So, yes, there are certain things about the offense I thought Kevin Patullo called too conservative of a game plan in the second half. They were stacking the box, whether he agrees with it or not, in his presser today. They should have threw more, pushed them back. They should have went for the kill and tried to go up 2 scores. I thought they kind of played scared after the lightning delay. There are some things I want them to correct in that area. I am a little bit concerned about Adoree Jackson, of course, at corner, but I would not panic about the passing game or the defense right now. I think they're going to be just fine, and I think there were a lot of positives to take from that Cowboys tape. All right, guys, coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast, while we're breaking down the film already as the 2025 season is underway, Howie Roseman is still busy at work. He made another trade yesterday for a running back. How does Tank Bigsby fit into the fold? We'll get into that coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast, we are brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process so much smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, low prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off. Real people, real service, Supply House. Guys, today's show, we are also sponsored by the Game Time app. Game Time, NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team, but let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time and in just a couple taps, I already saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Tickets for as low as $100. And plus, on top of the great price that you're going to get, you can also make sure that you're going to get a great seat view on the app before you buy. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome into this Tuesday edition of the show, and we're still recapping the Eagles' win over the Dallas Cowboys, getting you ready for Eagles-Chiefs this Sunday, America's game of the week, a Super Bowl 59 rematch. And while the regular season is still going and the offseason's done, free agency is quote-unquote over, the acquisition period is quote-unquote over for a lot of NFL teams. The draft is over as well. That doesn't apply. That rule does not apply to Howie Roseman, and that's why he's the best general manager in the NFL. For a lot of teams, yeah, right now, like, the acquisition period is done. Like, they almost think their job is over. Howie Roseman is never stopping trying to improve this roster, and he did that yesterday when he traded for Jacksonville Jaguars running back Tank Bigsby, sending a 5th and 6th round pick from the 2026 NFL Draft for Bigsby, a second-year running back who last year had over 700 rushing yards for the Jaguars, 7 rushing touchdowns, and averaged 4.6 yards per carry. Now, my initial thought when I saw this trade was, why are they giving up 2 draft picks next year for a backup running back? Like, in a vacuum, shout out Lawrence, I know you love when people say in a vacuum, one of our longtime listeners. In a vacuum, yeah, trading 2 draft picks for a backup running back when you have Saquon Barkley, there is no committee approach in Philadelphia. Normally, I would not love that move. But when you add context to the Eagles situation, I actually do like it. Why? Number one, they still have 10 draft picks in 2026. They had to trade some of these picks. Like, they were not going to take, especially after having a 10-player draft class from 2025, including 8 picks on day 3. They weren't going to then again turn around and draft 13 prospects in 2026. They had to get rid of some of these picks. They did that, trading for Jacorian Bennett, the moves, sending Darian Kennard away, getting Fred Johnson back. Howie Roseman has made 5 trades in a month now that you add the Bigsby trade here. And I love it that he's aggressive and always trying to improve the roster. Again, normally I wouldn't want to give up 2 picks for a backup running back, but again, you still have double-digit draft picks in 2026. The other thing is, the Philadelphia Eagles, they might have Saquon Barkley, but they run more than anybody in football. And they need a good backup to Saquon, because if he does get hurt, you want somebody that can still carry the load. You're not suddenly going to want to throw 30 to 40 times a game. And they need a good backup in case Saquon goes down. Also, they need a good backup because they want to make sure Saquon doesn't get hurt, and they want him healthy for the stretch run of the season, for the playoff run, trying to win back-to-back Super Bowls. How do you do that? You do what you started to do in week 1, which is get other running backs involved, even just a little bit more compared to last year. I think Will Shipley, he made some good plays in the first half of that game against Dallas. He had a 20-yard reception. A.J. Dillon got some snaps. So those guys were involved. Tank Bigsby is an upgrade over those players. I mean, Bigsby again last year put up numbers. 766 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, a 4.6 yards per carry average. He's got that physical thumping style that I wanted behind Saquon Barkley. And it sounds like Will Shipley has broken ribs and may be out for a little bit. So they needed another guy. I like the moves for those reasons. And also, in 2023, Tank Bigsby, he's a third-year player. Tank Bigsby, no, am I wrong about that? I think Bigsby was a rookie last year. Let me double check on this. Tank Bigsby stats. Yeah. No, sorry, 2023. So he's a third-year player. In 2023, I want to make sure I got the right year. He averaged over 32 yards a kickoff return. So he's also a returner, which the Eagles need. I think they need kickoff returners. Outside of Will Shipley, they don't really have a lot of options there. And if Shipley's hurt, they definitely don't have any options. Jahan Dotson right now is fielding punts, and I'm not sure if they want to keep him there long term. I'm not sure. I know he did it at Penn State, but not sure if he's like the best player for that spot. So Tank Bigsby also is a good acquisition because he's a good explosive returner. Coming downhill on a kickoff, that kind of power can be dangerous. He, again, averaged over in 2023, over 32 yards a return. So there's a lot of reasons that I like this move. Again, I normally wouldn't want to trade multiple draft picks away for a backup running back when you have Saquon Barkley, but they want to keep Saquon healthy. They need an upgraded backup running back, especially with Will Shipley hurt right now. They needed an upgrade with kickoff returners. Tank Bigsby is a young player. He still has 2 years left this year and next year. He's got 1 more year of, rookie contract control for this football team. He's an inexpensive backup. I like the move. And I'm curious now, though, if A.J. Dillon's roster spot is safe. So they did release Montrell Johnson from the practice squad today, but if they bring him back, Bigsby kind of does fill that role of the physical backup running back that if Saquon goes down, you don't want Will Shipley to be the lead running back. He'll probably still get the most snaps, the most touches in that scenario, but you want a guy that can hold up probably better to get the bulk of the carries if Saquon goes down. And Bigsby kind of fills that role now for Dillon. When Shipley is healthy, he's still your receiving back rotating in behind Barkley. I do wonder if Dillon's spot is safe. For now it is because Montrell Johnson is not with the team, but maybe they think, okay, we're not going to carry 4 running backs on this roster. We really haven't done that a lot in the Nick Sirianni era. Let's go with Saquon, Bigsby, Shipley, Montrell Johnson on the practice squad. I do wonder if Dillon's spot is safe. I don't think it is, so we'll definitely monitor that. But overall, I do like the move, and I just love that Howie Roseman, talent acquisition is a 365-day-a-year business for Howie Roseman. It is not for all general managers, and that's why he's the best in the game. Coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast, my first under-the-radar report of the 2025 season. who was an instrumental role player in that first win that we're just not talking about enough. We'll get into that coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 back in bonus bets. That's right, $300 back to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you want to bet. Player props, no problem. Building a same-game parlay, do it. Even jumping in live as the action unfolds. I got in on that game late last night. Vikings-Bears was kind of a snoozer. Then I started going in on some player prop bets with J.J. McCarthy. I hit an anytime touchdown bet for Aaron Jones. It makes every game more exciting on FanDuel, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, guys, we are wrapping up this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Time now for Under the Radar Report. The Under the Radar Report for Locked On Eagles, the first one of the year, really showcases, features the players that maybe didn't make the cut for stock up, stock down, that we didn't highlight, that had a really good game in an Eagles win. Maybe they didn't make 10 to 15 great plays like Jalen Hurts did, but maybe they made one or two instrumental plays that they did the dirty work. They made a play on special teams. A really nice run stop in a big moment. Whatever it is, I want to do the Under the Radar Report because there are so many Eagles that are crucial to a win week in and week out that I can't always go through 10 to 15 players in my stock up segment of our Monday or Tuesday show. So I want to create another segment to talk about the guys that are doing the dirty work. And some of these players are starters. Maybe they just didn't have a super loud, impressive performance, but still did some good things. But a lot of it's going to be for the role players. Some of the backups are rotating guys on offense and defense that came through and really did help out in a win. So my first guy on the Under the Radar Report is a starter that we're going to expect a lot of big things from this year. But again, in the box score, in the highlights, didn't really do a whole lot. It's Jalen Hunt. And I know that with Jalen, he didn't have a sack, no real notable big plays for number 58, the year 2 starter in his first year as a starting edge rusher. And look, Josh Uche had a great game, so we're talking a lot about Josh. We're talking a lot about Jordan Davis, who stood out as well, the elite linebackers. But when you look at the film, Jalen Hunt, first off, nearly had a strip sack in that first quarter. The deep ball to CeeDee Lamb that set up the first touchdown of the game. Jalen Hunt was like 0.2 seconds away from drilling Dak blindside and popping that football out. I thought he had some really good pass rush wins in this football game. And the other thing, the thing I was a little bit nervous about was with Hunt as a full-time starter, how is he going to hold up against the run? I thought Jalen Hunt was really good against the run in this matchup. He made some big plays in the second half, run stopping Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. Again, it wasn't a super sexy performance from the first-time starter in the box score, in the highlight reel, but going back and watching the film again last night for the second time, I wanted to watch some different things. I'm like, how did Jalen do? I was actually really impressed. I think it's going to pop. He should have had maybe a sack or two, including a strip sack in that first half. So, under the radar, Jalen Hunt in that game against the Dallas Cowboys. Another defensive lineman that kind of went under the radar was defensive tackle Byron Young. And Byron Young suddenly has a much bigger role now that Gabe Hall was released today from the 53-man roster. And we'll see if Gabe comes back on the practice squad. They had to make room for Tank Bigsby as of right now. Maybe they bring Gabe back and release A.J. Dillon, like I was alluding to earlier in segment 2. Who knows? But Byron Young now, with Ty Robinson being a healthy scratch last week, maybe he gets active this week against Kansas City. But Byron Young is suddenly the 4th guy in this defensive tackle rotation. So he's got a pretty big role. He was the guy last year that was inactive all year after they traded for him from it was the Raiders, I believe, right? Yeah, it was the Raiders. And Young made a big play that nobody's really talking about because Jahad Campbell got the credit for it, and Campbell did make the initial stop. He made the initial forced fumble on Miles Sanders, but Gabe Hall's hand was also in there. It was kind of a double forced fumble where Byron Young was in on the ball just as much as Jahad Campbell was. And I thought he made a couple really nice plays in the red zone, had a couple nice pass rush wins. Byron Young is suddenly a big player for this rotation if he's ahead of Ty Robinson in the rotation. And I thought, again, he didn't do a lot of crazy things in this football game, but he nearly had a diving interception. He was at the right place at the right time, showed good instincts, situational awareness of where the play was going, almost had a highlight reel diving pick. And then he was in on maybe the most important play of the game, helping Jahad Campbell pop that ball out of Miles Sanders' hands when they were up 24-20. Right after that Miles Sanders big run, the Cowboys could have scored in that moment, but Byron Young held up his spot in the A-gap, clogged the hole, helped Jahad Campbell punch the football out. I thought he was definitely an underrated player, under the radar guy in that win. And I want to give a shout out as well to the kickers. The kicker and punter, Jake Elliott and Braden Mann. Braden Mann was actually the highest graded punter in the entire NFL this week. Jake Elliott hit the go-ahead 58-yard field goal to go up 24-20, to go up by, they had to score a touchdown, Dallas, to win it, and they were not able to do it. And that was such a huge kick for Elliott's confidence, for my confidence in him as well this year, because last year, he just could not hit 50-yarders. I think he hit one in the entire 2024 season. He had a much better playoff than he did a regular season last year, but Elliott kind of seemed shot for a little bit. So to see him hit a near 60-yard field goal in a big spot was vintage Jake the Snake. And that was really needed for me because I was still a little bit nervous about Elliott heading into the season. Normally, those big kicks are his bread and butter. Like before 2024, Elliott would miss a lot of aggravating 30 and 40-yard chip shot field goals, but he would always bang the 50-plus yarders. Last year, it felt like that superpower went away. We wondered if he still had it. Well, I think in this game, he proved that he still has that leg. What a big clutch kick in a big moment. That was very 2023 Jake Elliott, where he was winning you a lot of games with his clutch kicking. And then Braden Mann, I mean, talk about a guy that went under the radar. The Dallas did not have good field position throughout the majority of that second half, when it was a one-score game. Man consistently pinned them inside the 20, inside the 15-yard line. The kickers were on one in this game. Special teams matters too. Kickers are people too. Jake Elliott and Mann, shout out to them. They had a really clutch performance for the Philadelphia Eagles. Sometimes that's what it takes in a close game, is your kicker and punter. Everything matters in football, guys, and they were under the radar but instrumental in that win. The under the radar report: Jalix Hunt, Byron Young, Jake Elliott, Braden Mann, the kickers. Shout out to you guys. All right, that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure your second listen is the Locked On NFL podcast. We got 2 Locked On NFL episodes for you each and every day. My guy Tyler Rowland, the Madman, my guy Wig, 2 shows a week, or a day, I should say, on the Locked On NFL podcast. So make sure that's your second listen of the day. As always, thanks so much for downloading Locked On Eagles. Thanks for watching, listening, and viewing, whatever you do. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.